So we have a brand new gacha RPG on our hands, and it's a real banger. MiHoYo, the Chinese giant, released Honkai Star Rail after cooking it for a while in beta, and the game hasn't left the news since the release. This is the company's most ambitious release probably after Genshin Impact, and oh boy, has it made an impact. The game earned astounding $40 million in just a week, and it reached 20 million plus download on the first day of its release. And this does not even count the PC players reportedly. So before you jump on Star Rail's hype train, let us try to tell you everything you need to know about the game. At this point, I've played the game for more than a week, and I have completed the story in Yarilo 6. Yarilo 6. I don't know how to pronounce that. But yeah, I made it to Jianzhou Lofu, the second big story area. So let's get to it. So the story, it's a mixed bag to be honest. Most parts are very good with smooth humor, and I've been playing with English voiceover, and in most Eastern games the English voiceover seems unnatural as a lot of emotional depth and the humor it gets completely lost during the translation. But that is not the case in Star Rail. It's actually quite far from that. The English voiceover has its own charm and it's quite well done. It sounds very natural as well. The game has a varying spectrum of tones and it envelopes all from comedy to tragedy. The interactions are really full of goofy humor, which is sure to charm everyone. And the story also tackles some pretty complex subjects. I'm not going to spoil anything else. The first thing about characters, they're designed wonderfully. The main characters, they're a crew of spacefaring trailblazers who ride the Star Rail and they visit different worlds and they solve the problems there. The problems range from apocalyptic to auctioning a child's doll. So you'll get everything. And along the way, you'll meet a lot of them, a lot of these wonderful characters and with whom you're sure to bond and create some heartwarming connections. The most of the characters here are established characters from Honkai universe and they're all obtainable through Gacha System, which we'll talk all about later on. The next thing we're going to talk about is the gameplay. It's a turn-based gacha RPG, but it has an explorable overworld with major areas that are divided into different levels. Some levels have city and urban areas populated with interactable things and NPCs. And there are vibrant areas within a spacecraft and there's even a city that is a spacecraft. Some areas are like dungeons and they're teeming with enemies. Once you encounter an enemy, you can evade them if you're quick enough, but if you attack them or if they get a hold of you, you enter combat. The combat is turn-based and the fastest character gets the first turn and gets to move more often. During each turn, you can select one of two attacks. You can either use basic attacks, which will gather skill points, or you can use special attacks and spend the gathered skill points. You can accumulate a maximum of 5 skill points, and your characters also individually generate energy as they get attacked, or they perform an attack, and they can even get it during the start of the turn and during the end of their turn. When this energy is at maximum, the character can use their ultimate. When you use the ultimate, the character you selected cuts in, ignoring the turn order, to perform their ultimate skill. And this will be performed as soon as the current ongoing action is over. Even if the character uses their ultimate, they will still get their normal turn. And if more than one character uses their ultimate, it works on a first come first served basis. From what I have played, I find the gameplay to be really smooth. The turn-based combat is quite polished. The combat animation and mechanics are simple and beginner-friendly, and the options available in combat are minimal, making strategizing very easy. Just like its predecessor Genshin, the game has a decent gacha system in place. The gacha here is called Warp. During each summon, you can either warp in 3, 4 or 5 star light cone, which are kinda like weapons, or you can warp in 4 or 5 star characters. There are 2 types of passes you can use to warp. One is Star Rail Pass and another is Star Rail Special Pass. And as of now, there are 4 kinds of warp you can do. The first one is the beginner warp. It's a discounted 50 pool which guarantees 1 5-star unit. A quick tip, if you do get a 5-star character before you hit 50 summons, we advise you to stop summoning in this banner and start using your Star Rail passes for the regular warp. This is because when you do the regular warp and hit 300 summons there, you can select a 5-star unit of your choice. That way, you can always resume that discounted summon after you hit the 300 summon mark. The other 2 types of summons are the character banner and the light cone banner, where you get boosted chance to summon either a character or a light cone. The game has a actually good pity system in place. Unlike most other gacha out there, you get a 4-star guaranteed within every 10 summons and a 5-star guaranteed every 90 summons. During the banner, you have a 50% chance to summon the feature unit the first time you pull a 5-star and 75% chance for the featured light cone. The second time you pull a 5-star unit during the banner, it is guaranteed to be the one that's featured. So as long as you have enough summons, you can get the unit. Apart from the good story, well-made characters, decent gameplay and a solid gacha system, the game also has a really good music. I love the Jarido Bold It Down tune, and Kokulia's post-fight theme was epic. I don't think you have to spend money to complete the storyline. The characters you get for free are unique and really strong. The visuals and the universe the game is set in is absolutely wonderful. I love the interplanetary theme, the mix between theology and science with the godlike aeons that I yet have to understand, and the whole city of Xianzhou Luofu, which is a gigantic spacecraft floating in space. It's freaking awesome. Now that we have talked about all the good things, we arrive at the bad. And even if you might not want to hear about it, there are a lot of areas that need a bunch of work. So let's saddle up and hear it. The game's battle system. It is hugely dependent on stats than being strategy oriented. Most of the time during the main story, as long as you have the required stats, you will defeat your enemies. Even the game has a really good auto battle system, which might be more intelligent and definitely more quicker than me. The battle overall feel watered down. It doesn't mean I don't like it. It's really easy to understand and all, but if you are looking for some hardcore nail-biting strategizing, you might have to look somewhere else. Although there is a content like Forgotten Halls and better, the simulated universe that might satisfy that thirst you have for more harder content. But even there, you having better stats is way better than you having better strategies. I might be wrong about this as the game is quite new, but most other gacha out there, they follow the same stat dependent battle formula. Only way you get to the strategy part is if you hit the endgame levels and are facing a well-made endgame content, which frankly Star Rail is yet to have. The second challenge I see is the shallow character pool. We only have 21 characters during the release, which when compared to other gacha is quite less. But if you compare it to games like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, then Star Rail does win the numbers game. But remember, it's counterintuitive to take the similar units, ones that have similar elemental types or similar roles in the same team. Since your team and your units being at full power is determined by the gacha, you might not be able to use your favorite characters at full power unless you well and get all the eidolons, especially for the 5-star ones. The next thing I have gripes with is the grind, and you will have to grind. Eventually, once you're done with the current story that barely takes 2 to 3 weeks of time, all you have left to do is grind. The grind here is not that fun. There is no in-game chat system to communicate with people who are grinding, making the solo grinding really lonely. The Trailblaze power or the stamina energy system you have, which is available for grinding, is not enough, as some stages take 30 stamina, even more, making maxing a single character really challenging. And you have so many things to max, like there's traces, there's the levels, there's the light cones, and there are relics. And these are all things you have to max to make your unit perform at their maximum. And that's a lot of things to max. So yeah, that's a lot of grinding to do. And I'm one of those people who love to grind. If you have played games like this, you know how grinding works here. You have to use energy, which is limited by time. you'll have to spend your premium currency that you use for gacha to recharge the energy so that you can grind more. The bigger problem I find is how expensive grinding some of the stages are, and also how expensive recharging the trail-based power is. You can always roam around story stages battling enemies, or go to the simulated universe which doesn't consume trail-based power, but you also don't get the required power of materials in these stages. There's another issue here. As of right now, there is no PvP or co-op content or any plans to have those in the game, so we can only hope for some later on. Frankly, most games in this genre are still alive because of a thriving community that partakes in PvP and keeps each other in the toes. And if there's not gonna be a PvP or co-op, they will have to keep adding massive updates to keep pulling the player base, just like they have to do in Genshin. And they might have mastered that kind of thing after Genshin, so who knows. But even if they don't add a PvP, I hope they do get some ideas for co-op content. But just as I said before, there are many wonderful games out there that do not need a PvP or co-op content to shine. And only time will tell if Star Rail is one of those. There is one final thing which I see can be a bit problematic if you're coming from another gacha. You usually pull 3-star artifacts or light cones 95% of the time, and this become absolutely useless very quickly and can only be used as fodder. Soon enough, if the summons aren't shiny, they will have zero value, as you will be hunting for the copies of the units or the copies of the 4 or 5-star artifacts. I just wish the 3-star things did not lose their value so quickly, making every summon have more impact, but that might be a bit too much to ask. But there's one thing that's not too much to ask, and that is power creep. With limited pool of units you can use, I hope they find a strategy to overcome power creep and give each unit a place. There are already some units that are underperforming compared to others, and Genshin did not have a big issue with power creep, as the large issue with power creep is because of PvP content, and you don't have that here. So you can always use your favorite characters, and I hope that works. Finally, in conclusion, I do really like the game. I feel like it's more considerate than most other of its genre. The game's design, the story, the characters, the universe is set in, and a lot more are quite frankly phenomenal here. Although I do advise a word of caution for those who are not able to manage their time or keep their money in their pockets when it comes to gacha games. In the end, if you are joining us in this journey aboard the Stellar Rail, I hope you have a really fun ride. Laters.